How can our hormones affect weight gain?
Oh, yes. Well, insulin is a hormone. I've been doing a lot of writing this month and podcasts in regard to defeating diabetes. It's Defeat Diabetes Month in April and type 2 diabetes. So I know a lot about this because, again, I had, the gestational diabetes with my second child. And I wasn't someone who just sat there and ate a bunch of candy and things. But what I learned at that time was that uh, if you have that hereditary component, just like you do with thyroid, that someone in your family had type 2 diabetes, it shows up pretty often in pregnancy. And they warn you that you have a 50% greater chance of having type 2 diabetes later on in life. Like that's a sign that, hey, you might be getting this. So I was very aware, for the last
Wow.
12 years. Yeah, I was very
I've
aware of that.
never heard of that.
Yeah, and insulin resistance, which we hear a lot about, and we hear people going on medications for that. Insulin resistance is the precursor to type 2 diabetes. But a lot of people with weight, I have an episode that is called The Body's Desire to Lose Weight, because your body really does want to be healthy and be a healthy weight and all of that. But what prevents it is typically cortisol, which is our stress hormone, especially in the midsection that a lot of women complain about gaining weight
Yes.
in. But cortisol is your stress hormone. And cortisol, we need cortisol because it'll save us, right? If, a car is oncoming and our cortisol rushes, and like, okay, but we don't need to be running on high cortisol all the time. And we hear about high cortisol, but what happens is when you run on fight or flight or high cortisol for many years, such as myself, I did that. Then you just don't produce enough cortisol. So you go to the opposite end and you don't hear anyone really talking about that. But that's when you get really tired and fatigued and you don't have any energy because you're not producing it anymore. But how cortisol affects your weight and releasing weight is because the body's first innate job, as I said a little while ago, is to keep you alive. So it's going to look at all of your functions. It's going to look at how are your hormones doing? How's your immune system? How's your digestive system? How's your detoxification pathways and your liver, all that stuff? How's your energy production? And how's your nervous system? And then if everything looks okay, it will work on releasing weight. So that's the biggest piece that people do not understand, is that you could exercise twice a day, eat healthy, and if you have stressors going on, whether it be external or internal, your body's last priority is to release weight. And the more you look at the scale and get on it, the less it's going to move, because you're even stressing yourself out thinking about the fact that the scale's not moving. So I urge people to focus on, am I doing the things? Am I doing stress reduction? Am I eating enough? Am I eating well balanced meals? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I reducing toxins? Like, are you doing the foundational things? Because if you are, it's going to be easier to make your body has to feel safe, and especially your nervous system. I think in the 40s, especially, women have to start to understand that you cannot fool the body, and you have to make the body feel safe and your nervous system feel safe daily, even when you don't feel stressed. So many women will come and they'll say, oh, I'm not that stressed. That's great, but you might feel like you're not, but your body needs to feel safe. And so you have to do these somatic practices or breathing exercises, things like this, even when you feel not so stressed, so that when you do feel stressed, your body feels safe, like, oh, she can handle this. Because if you're operating out of the sympathetic nervous system, again, that's going to be fight or flight, you're not going to release weight. And so that's a big piece of it. And the second piece of it is the insulin resistance. So most women, they're either skipping breakfast, they're having coffee on an empty stomach. They're not, they might be eating some carrot sticks with no protein. So really understanding blood sugar balance is important for weight, because if you don't manage your insulin and you don't manage your blood sugar, and you go hours without eating, your body will store more fat. It will say to itself, I don't know where she is. Maybe she's stranded on an island. So we better just suck that fat right in and store it. So you're not doing yourself any good by skipping meals. Um, Intermittent fasting, I know that's become a big thing too. Studying hormone health for over 2 decades, I can tell you that most women don't do well with intermittent fasting in the morning. There is a way to intermittent fast that can help women, which is cutting off eating at 5 or 6 o'clock at night. But I find that a lot of women don't like to do that. They like to eat at 7 o'clock, or maybe they're just busy. But cutting off food like until 11, 12, 1 o'clock is not a good thing to do, because I guarantee most women are getting up and they're going to the gym or going right to work or have to, carry kids around. And that's like taking your car and starting it on empty and then saying, okay, drive me 200 miles. You're going to spike cortisol. And when cortisol spikes, your blood sugar is dysregulated and you store fat. And even with some people who intermittent fasting works for a little bit, then they end up plateauing and gaining the weight back and then some. And the other piece to it is, again, your cycle. If you're a cycling woman, you do not want to be fasting at all the week before your period, because your body needs all of the energy and fuel. There is a reason. Like, we're not just psycho and having cravings and hungry. We need more nutrition and leading up to that period. So you don't want to be fasting then. I know a lot of women will fast one day on the weekend. That's a better method. And have you heard of the book Fast Like a Girl?
No.
That's a great read. I don't know who the author is, but that's a great read that teaches you that women's hormones need to be supported differently. Fasting works very well for men because, if we look at our evolution, men used to go out to the fields and be out there for hours, without food or drink. And we weren't out there with them. So their bodies, that's the way that they were created. It's evolution. We were created to have babies. And, again, I'm not saying that like, okay, you're supposed to stay home and have babies. I'm saying it because it's the reality that that's how we're built.
What is the theory with hot flashes? How
Oh
can women
gosh,
get rid of them?
this is like a almost daily conversation. Hot flashes are very much related to blood sugar regulation. I am proud to say that I have had so many women, like, pretty quickly after working with me, not have hot flashes. So for people who have having hot flashes or night sweats, I'm going to challenge you to keep a log of what you're eating. So are you eating three, I call them magic plates a day that do have greens, leafy greens? Oh my gosh, like, women don't like to eat leafy greens. I don't think guys do either. I don't know why, but we're just not used to it. But leafy greens, and you eat those first because you want to coat the upper intestine and it takes the sugar hit. So when you eat the carbs and the other things, it'll slow down the glucose spike. And I find a lot of people don't eat enough greens. Maybe they eat a salad a day, but just a side of greens, eat those first. Protein. Do you have good 25, 30 grams of protein on your plate? Most women that I talk to are eating about 60 grams a day total. You really need to eat at least 1 gram per pound that you want to weigh. And people go, that's a lot. But, this is something I teach people, how to layer on the protein without being overwhelmed by it. But you need to eat enough protein. You need to have carbs. Carbs are not the devil. Some people need more carbs than others. I offer this metabolic typing test. And what I was so fascinated by was that when I took the test myself, it made so much sense. Being a woman over 40, I've heard keto, a lot of protein, but I've actually ended up at the urologist in the past when I was drinking protein shakes. I had blood in my urine, and the urologist said, how much protein are you consuming a day? And told me, like, don't be taking all that protein. Well, when I took the metabolic typing test, I found out that I am what they consider a slow oxidizer. So I break down protein very slow, and my energy production is actually like comes from fruits and vegetables more. I could be like a vegetarian really easily. So everybody, again, going back to that uniqueness, is different, but carbs are not evil. And if you're feeling tired, you might be that slow oxidizer that needs more carbs. So if you're eating single ingredient whole foods, don't be afraid of carbs, but you need to have all of those things on your plate for blood sugar balance. And you need to eat every 3 or 4 hours. You can't just skip, and you can't just have carrot sticks. And so most of my clients eat 3 magic plates, and then they probably have a balanced snack either between breakfast and lunch or afternoon and dinner because it's a long span. Some of my clients use the CGMs, or the glucose monitors, to see, you can actually see the science, which can be good. Oh, wow. Like, yeah, I guess I'm really spiking my blood sugar and it's staying elevated for that long. But what I find is that when you balance your blood sugar, you balance your hormones, those night sweats and those hot flashes go away pretty quickly.
Hey guys, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to our app, Yoga Plus. You will have access to an incredible selection of videos led by top instructors in yoga, fitness, nutrition, and so much more. Download our Yoga Plus app, available on iOS and Android today.